them to just pick them from the street. These guys, they don't.
Just an ordinary day. Turning around, now my life's upside down. Imagine that. And it's all because I heard you say. And it's all because I heard you say. And it's all because I want to try. You say, I heard 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 you say,
Growing up, we were free to decide what we wanted to be. Free from the societal chains that link us together without us knowing. Free from the immediate influence of faces that smile with the vision, but whose intentions are to build a system that fuels the mission of all politicians.
Give us peace.
We were pure as the untouched floor of the ocean bed. Our minds could actually slow down when we rested our head. We'd paint pictures on our mind's canvas of being doctors, sportsmen, event planners, and some of us, rappers. Whatever it was, the golden thread that tied us together was our passion to be a grade above standard.
Give us peace.
In high school, we'd pack our backpacks full of everything, but no matter how full they got, in between all the books and mom's lunchbox, we still made space for our dreams. Staying up all night studying would hardly get any rest. It's funny, after so much preparation, life always seems to be the hardest test.
Give us peace.
We'd count the steps as we walked to school, because each number made it possible for the next one to survive. Just like the truth needs lies and left needs right. What if we had each other's backs like 4 does 5 and 8 does 9? Like if you're sad, then let's cry. If you have questions, let's ask why. Because at the end of the day, all we ever wanted was to call something mine.
Give us peace.
As we lay on our concrete beds, our ideas and potentials extend beyond the roof that is missing above our heads. We could be, no, in fact we are. We are the cure to a country that bleeds. We are the growth that the country so desperately needs. But if we are to achieve the heights of our dreams, we need you to
give us wings
so we can fly. Because effort is the reason success is alive, but not even effort can survive without the ability to try. Thank you.
I really invite you as the audience to feel free to ask questions or make comments as we go along. I'm hoping we can have quite a vibrant discussion and hopefully come out of this session with a few solutions moving forward. Moving to the panel, and I'll just kick off the questions. Craig, you guys as Jones Lang, yourself, JRL, obviously have a global presence, and there's been quite a few studies that have been conducted by yourselves and are continue updated on student accommodation as an asset class around the world. So the first question, I think, would be to you to provide a bit of context for us for our discussion, and hopefully you'll really tell us how big this opportunity is for student accommodation around the world. How does South Africa as a market compare to markets like the US, the UK, and Australia from an asset class point of view?
So I think maybe just to kick off, certainly the US is at the forefront of the student housing the growth. We would estimate that they are sort of 15 to 25 years ahead of sub-Saharan Africa, and within that band, probably 15 years ahead of where we are in South Africa. And I think what's provided a lot of support to the growth in the US market is debt funding support. So I think there is certainly support from institutions, government-backed institutions such as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who during the GFC they're obviously part of the problem, but I think they do form the backbone of the growth that we've seen in the US.
The question I have for you is, was there, from your perspective, you obviously coming from a property sector, really trying to come help an institution like FITS to get to grapples with this sort of problem. From your perspective and what you've seen, are the universities to blame for the problem that we're sitting with now, or is the problem much more complicated than that?
It's interesting to use the word blame, because I think it is much more complex than putting it as a blame. We've got to look at the sub-Saharan growth. It is a urbanization issue, it is a demographic growth, it is a population growth. So it is bigger than just an enrollment issue. The enrollment issue is huge. Our figures show a 8% growth of enrollment in all 200 public universities that we studied in sub-Saharan Africa, which is a threefold number increase over 2 decades. That is huge in terms of compounding it with the urbanization issues across the whole of the continent. I think with that, one can't look at it as a university issue. This is a continental issue, this is a national issue, this is a state issue. Concurrent with that, in terms of number enrollment, is an inevitable decrease in resource and funding from the states. So we are dealing with two very difficult, complex issues of increased numbers, decreased funding.
And I suppose that means the solution has to be found from quarters other than the universities as well. And Louise, I suppose that's really where you come in. South Point, to my mind, sort of got in on the ground floor of this opportunity. You guys are the biggest accommodation provider in excess of 10,000 beds, which, to be fair, relative to the backlog that currently exists, is really a drop in the ocean, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. So, I suppose the question, and maybe the answer is quite obvious, is what attracted you to student accommodation on a personal perspective, and what keeps you interested in it, given the unique challenges that student accommodation tends to provide?
So, student accommodation as an investment class seems really obvious now. Just given what's happening in the environment, there was a report that was issued around 2011 which highlighted the crisis, but my personal journey began around 2006 with South Point. It had been formed in 2004. Some of the founders are actually here, and so I worked for a private equity firm and this opportunity came to the network. Now, you've got to imagine 2006, you get an investment opportunity that's got student housing and inner city. It's the kind of thing that would have been thrown in the bin immediately, at that point. But we had to kind of contend with the noise at that time around students don't pay, where's the funding, the operations are intense, those kind of things, and that's just on the student side.
How is the conversation, how easy or difficult has a conversation with your investors become in the past couple of years?
Yeah, so it is about kind of looking through the noise. I mean, so to use kind of fees must fall as an example, is from the outside the perception is it really compromises the business model. To your point, it's about looking through that and saying, well, what does this actually mean? So the fact that students have gone to the streets effectively to ask for more funding to be invested in the space has ultimately been positive. So the net result has been, if one looks at this as an example, is you're looking at enrollment growth somewhere between 2 and 3%. Okay, and that aligns with the plan from the Department of Education. Is you had, as a result of writing off old debts, as a result of people not being impeded in terms of registering on the basis of financial means, is you had a 6% growth in enrollment at WITS. So for us, we've had on a national basis 99% occupancy relative to historical average of 95. So fees must fall is clearly an issue that needs to be dealt with at a policy and government level. But where we sit, it's resulted in an increase in enrollment as a result of a massive increase in amount of funding.
Okay, I just wanted to check with the audience if there's any comments or questions that might be at this stage. Yes, sir. Can we get a mic on this side?
This question is for Dumiso. My name is Claire. So at the, you mentioned the symposium that was held by the Department of Higher Education earlier this year. So at that symposium, the minister mentioned that there exist some subsidies from the government in respect of student accommodation. So I wanted to ask you if you considered tapping into that to try and ease the pressure in terms of increasing the cost of rental that is passed on to the students.
The biggest issue in terms of being able to service, particularly areas that have been genuinely neglected and underserviced, it really is about the rental. It's about getting a rental that works, because in terms of the other things I've mentioned, those are variables ultimately not in control of any one individual. It's at some time, well, for the most part, it's the market at work. It costs what it costs to build. In terms of the cost of capital is the cost of capital. It really is about a rental rate. So when you sit at these symposiums, everyone's discussing is no one's really answering the question that needs to be answered is, so who's going to pay? And how are they going to pay? And until that question is answered is the historically black universities, the universities in, let's call them second-tier towns, that is going to continue to be a market where capital is naturally not going to go, because the return is much lower than the alternatives.
With the pressure on the amount of money being available for the system, what do you see, what do you foresee in terms of rental escalations going forward? Is that big under pressure?
I think just to answer your question, I think the key in the student housing market space is to get scale and dominance. So I think, while there are certainly those opportunities in other African markets, I would suspect that there's probably a fair way to go for a lot of the developers in the South African market, a market which they probably understand quite a lot better, to grow scale and dominance in the SA market. But I think, having said that, there clearly are opportunities in the rest of the continent. I think what we are seeing is that gross enrollments are increasing, certainly on the continent, and also what we're seeing is mobility of students actually from African countries studying abroad is decreasing. So that's creating further demand for many of these cities and universities in the rest of Africa. So I think just to touch on something else which is quite interesting in the global context, the big driver of student housing demand is actually that mobility, the international students studying in different locations. I think that's a big driver for the sector and what's spurred on some of that demand. And it's maybe not as prevalent on the continent at this point in time. I think there will be certain countries such as South Africa which certainly could benefit from influx of African students into our universities and the demand that creates. But I think to answer your question, there certainly are vast opportunities. I think our recent projection placed the demand for beds over the next 5 years in excess of 500,000 beds, and that's probably a fairly conservative estimate.